Hey everyone, welcome to Secrets Behind the Stars. All the details are here in our video, so stay with us until the end. And if you enjoy these deep dives into the moments the cameras almost miss, remember to subscribe and share so you don't miss what comes next. The entertainment world woke up buzzing about a tense, late-night episode involving beloved co-stars Barış Arduç and Elçin Sangu. According to sources close to the pair, Barış was jolted awake by a phone call just past midnight. The voice on the line was urgent, and the subject was Elçin. The news was about her health, and whatever was said carried enough weight to cut straight through sleep and hesitation. Within minutes, Barış was out the door. Insiders claimed he didn't even change out of what he was wearing, the kind of small detail that paints the whole scene. He reportedly jumped into his car in pajama bottoms and a hoodie, eyes fixed, hands tight on the wheel, the streets of the still city sliding beneath him like an empty stage. The destination was the hospital where Elçin had been admitted, and every passing light felt slow. Those who saw him arrive say he barely paused at the entrance before heading straight for the floor where she was being seen. By the time he reached her room, the medical staff had already set up close monitoring. Machines hummed a rhythm that only intensified the tense quiet. Barış stood at her bedside, anxious, attentive, whispering to the doctors whenever they came in and out. Witnesses recall him staying rooted there, checking his phone only to coordinate with her team, then looking back to her, the way you do when you need to be sure this moment isn't slipping away. He stayed for hours, and the hours grew heavy. Doctors say updates were steady but cautious. Nothing dramatic, nothing to alarm further, yet no one wanted to rush the reassurance. People close to Elçin insist she was stable and under careful observation, while Barış, relentless in his calm but worried presence, kept asking for briefings, waiting for those small words that let the shoulders loosen and the air leave the lungs. News moved fast. A single post, then another, and the story spread like a quiet flame across timelines. Fans who adored their on-screen chemistry and their off-screen friendship flooded social media. Many wrote exactly what everyone was thinking: Barış always shows up for Elçin. From there, speculation took flight. Some called it an act of deep friendship. Others whispered that an old spark had found oxygen. None of it was confirmed, but the mood was unmistakable, romantic and dramatic, the kind of night that makes people believe in chapters they thought had ended. Commentators weighed in, noting how often late-night scares unfold in the lives of the famous, and how the public can't help but become invested. What set this one apart, though, was not just the names involved, but the quiet intensity of it. He ran, he waited, he asked questions, he kept watch. It was simple and powerful. By morning, the story was everywhere. Entertainment blogs, morning shows, and trending pages framed it as a classic scene. The star who never hesitates to be there for the woman with whom he shares a bond people still talk about. Some headlines leaned into romance, others into solidarity. But all of them echoed the same image: a long night, a solemn hallway, and a man who wouldn't leave. Insiders confirmed that Elçin's condition was never critical, but it was serious enough to require immediate attention and careful monitoring through the night. The official statement from the hospital was measured. A standard note about stable vitals and ongoing treatment. It left room for the imagination, and the imagination of fans filled the gaps. Was it exhaustion, stress, a sudden drop, a scare with blood pressure? No one confirmed, and perhaps that was for the best. The story everyone clung to was not the diagnosis, but the devotion. People who happened to be at the hospital, a late shift nurse, a visitor on a different floor, a journalist tipped off to a whisper, talked about a steady stream of supportive faces assembling outside. Some held their phones up, hoping to catch the moment he stepped out for air. Others simply waited, quiet in the early hours, as if not wanting to disturb a scene they knew would matter to those who would hear about it later. You can picture it: the low lights, the echo of footsteps, the doors that open and close with a soft click, the almost sacred silence that falls over a place when it becomes the setting for a story. Around dawn, the hashtag began to climb. Hashtag Barış runs for Elçin shot to the top of the trending lists, gathering thousands of messages within hours. People shared old footage, behind-the-scenes memories, interviews where both of them speak kindly about trust and loyalty. Clips of their most iconic on-screen moments resurfaced, suddenly reframed by the image of him in a corridor, waiting for word from a doctor. The scene outside grew. Paparazzi arrived first, then more fans. Security tried to keep the lobby clear while staff moved briskly, unfazed by the spectacle. Witnesses described an almost cinematic quality to the entire night. Barış walked the hallway with an expression that was tired yet determined, as if he had chosen a simple mission and would see it through. Stay until she is okay. Some say they saw the exact moment he exhaled for real, that unmistakable, chest-deep release when you know the worst is not arriving. One source talked about the way he pressed his hand to his face and took a breath as he caught sight of her sitting up, listening to a nurse, her color returning. Another described a look passing between them that needed no caption. Inside the room, they kept it quiet. He spoke with the team, asked what else was needed, then settled into a chair near her bed. The two of them are no strangers to bright lights and big rumors, but this was different. It was smaller and somehow more revealing. In a world where everything is scheduled and packaged, this was messy and unscripted, and people believed it because it felt true. The flood of commentary at noon only amplified what had built overnight. Fans wrote long threads about loyalty, about the bond you don't see on camera, about how you can care for someone without making any declarations at all. Some took the leap and proclaimed that this was the beginning of a new chapter between them. Others pushed back and said friendship can be profound enough. Either way, the conversation had taken hold, and it wasn't letting go. Backstage chatter from sets they've worked on hinted that their connection had never really faded, it had just grown quieter, as life often does for people who know each other deeply. That's why this night felt like a switch being flipped. You could hear it in the paper-cut details. The late-hour drive, the hoodie thrown on without thinking, the way he stood by the door to ask the nurse one last question before she left the room, the way Elçin tilted her head and offered a small smile that said, "I'm okay now." By afternoon, entertainment sites ran with headlines like, "A dramatic midnight rescue," and "Unexpected romantic solidarity," while talk shows threaded the story through their segments, replaying the same handful of images and turning them into narrative fuel. And always, beneath the headlines, the core remained unchanged. He came, he stayed, and he didn't leave until the first thin line of morning peeled the darkness back. People close to them have emphasized that Elçin is fine, that her treatment plan is straightforward, and that she'll be back in her routine soon. But the afterglow of the night doesn't vanish just because the sun rises. It lingers. And as it lingers, it reshapes how fans see them. The past. The laughter, the shared scenes, the unguarded interviews, all feels newly charged. Even the skeptics admit the tenderness of the gesture. Throughout the night, the hospital felt like a quiet film set, where the action is internal and the dialogue is sparse. Barış's hurried steps, the murmurs from the nurse's station, the gentle beep of monitors, the soft rustle as a blanket is adjusted, small sounds, big meaning. It was a tableau people won't forget, a night that will be referenced in future interviews and fan edits and whispered conversations as if it were a scene crafted by fate. As the day stretched on, the crowd thinned, leaving behind a trail of posts and snapshots that became the breadcrumbs of the story. There were no dramatic exits, no staged photo ops, just the slow unwinding of worry. Reporters asked whether he stayed until dawn, and the answer that slipped through back channels was yes. Yes, he was there until first light. Yes, he kept checking in. Yes, he waited for the final word before stepping into the hallway and letting the night go. The conversation will continue for days. Whether you call it the revival of a romance or the purest proof of friendship, the emotions are real. The industry knows this. Fans feel it. And both are why the narrative has the wind at its back. An unexpected night pushed two people we thought we knew into a spotlight brighter than any set could manufacture, and it revealed something honest. In the coming days, we can expect statements, calm, carefully worded, respectful of privacy. They'll likely focus on health and gratitude, the professionalism of the doctors, and the support of those who waited with patience and kindness. There may be clarifications, maybe even a story about what happened in the hours before that midnight call. But no matter what gets said, the night itself has already taken root in the public imagination. If you were in those corridors, you'd remember the quiet. If you were online, you'd remember the surge, the sheer volume of voices rallying under hashtag Barış runs for Elçin, the edits, the old interviews resurfaced like artifacts that suddenly made new sense. And if you were among the few inside the room, you'd remember the stillness that followed relief, the way two people who have shared so much fell into a silence that said more than any press release could. For now, here is what we know and what we felt. Elçin Sangu is stable and recovering with the close attention of her medical team. Barış Arduç rushed to her side without a second thought and stayed until he knew, truly knew, that she was okay. Their bond, whatever label you put on it, held fast when it mattered. And so the night becomes a story, and the story becomes part of how we see them. You can dress it up with headlines, or strip it down to a single sentence. When the phone rang, he ran. That is the detail that lingers, the image that has already found a permanent place in the collective memory of their fans. We'll keep you posted as more is said and more is known. Until then, remember to subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars, share this video with those who follow their journey, and stay tuned as we continue to bring you the moments that shape the lives of the stars you love.